In the spring of 1987, my job at the grocery store was drying up in that I wasn't getting any hours, and I just had a year to study before going on to getting my degree in geology. So I kind of went north to get some experience and start working. So I went north to Val-d'Or and landed myself a job in the bush. And we're getting ready here to go into the bush. We've got all our gear and it's going into a plane, and now we're flying in this plane to go into the middle of, well, the bush, where we have helicopters to go to work in. And notice the professional equipment that this helicopter mechanic uses to repair the helicopter. And our camp here had everything you could imagine, all the comforts of home. We had a 100 horsepower diesel generator to give us power. We had a huge backyard with, well, not exactly a swimming pool, but in the front of the camp we had a river and a fully stocked kitchen with a cook and washing machines and sinks in which to, brush your teeth and stuff, and you could hang your clothes up to dry. And this was my camp. I had 4 different kinds of whiskey, books to read. It was like paradise. Here's one of our guys who was working there with us, and there's another one. He always had a hangover, I think. And there was a picture of me, right, leaning on an oil drum. I was young, wasn't I? And here I am brewing beer. Actually, we're bottling beer that I brewed on the premises. Here we're cleaning up the area so that we can start to stack cores. These are drill cores that were drilled into the rock, and samples of the rock are there. And of course we piled up a lot of them and put them all in sequence, and there's the project geologist having a look at some of these cores that we put. There's one of the planes that would take us to work or bring us back, and there was some relaxing in between and after work, hanging out at the camp. And there was some recreation too. There was boating and water skiing and playing ball, and we even had a little bunny come into camp one day, and this little cutie wouldn't move. It was just petrified. It was just a little baby. And this is the mist in the morning when the morning dew is just falling. And of course they decided to put 2 motors on the back of the boat to get more power to do the water skiing. I didn't do any water skiing, I guess because every time I ever tried before going on this trip, I always landed in my face with my face in the water, so I just never got onto it. Not that I was scared or anything, I just didn't feel like it. We had a tracked carrier in the back of our camp, and it was used for going into the bush and getting. There's me with the first and only car I bought new. Now this is 2 years later in '89 when I started to work in prospecting. I had just got my degree, and we already had a flat tire on the U-Haul trailer to take all our stuff out to camp. And when we went to get the tire fixed, I took my car down to get the tire fixed, and on the way back up we had car trouble. So it was always, but we did get out of it when somebody came by and told us to hit the reset button in the trunk, and believe it or not, that started the fuel pump going again, and it worked fine. So here we are loading our all our equipment, and there's the pilot, and we're loading all our equipment on the plane again, and there was a helicopter there for some reason, I don't know what, but there's all our gear on the dock and getting loaded, and now we're flying off into the wild blue yonder where is our camp. And there are a lot of these lakes, and this is where we had our camp. And this was a camp that had been vacated by people in the past, and there was all our gear, but we were flying to another camp, and all of our stuff was being slung on the bottom of this helicopter to where we were going to camp. So now here we've got our camp set up, and that's our camp on the other side of the water there. And this is some of the surrounding views in the Otish Mountains where we worked in the middle of the province of Quebec, far north of where there's any real habitation. And it's beautiful country. It's nice rolling mountains and clean water everywhere. There's a stream you can drink from it. And this was a little lake that was on top of this mountain that we're looking down from right now. So you can see the distance, how far things are. It's just beautiful up there. It was a good summer in many ways. I learned a fair bit. And living in a camp with just 4 other people for an entire summer was quite an experience that I don't know, I think I could do it again. But, you know, you hear the same stories over and over again from the same people. You get to know them very well. These guys were our line cutters. They were Cree Indians who came up to the area to cut lines for us. And I hear the fishing in that little pond was pretty good. And that was the pond right in front of our camp. I wonder what it looks like today. And here they're removing hooks from the fish. It was trout, and the trout was very tasty. Very good eating fish there. And of course, our camp was pretty well supplied as well. We had stoves and freezers, and we had all kinds of gear. That's a picture of me at the time. And that's me with all my gear. I was doing a magnetic survey, walking these lines that were cut through the bush. And every 25 meters I had to take a reading, and take a reading, and take a reading. And this is in the morning when the sun's coming up. There's the mist on the water. Just beautiful stuff. I miss these views. And this is the evening, just after the sun had gone down. That's what it looks like. Of course, there's more of the same right here. The sun has gone down, and they're doing some fishing again. There wasn't much else to do in camp but fish. And yeah, it was beautiful, beautiful country. And we had storms coming in every now and then, stuff like that. So that little pond was always, the water was always warm and you could walk into it. And here we are demonstrating some of the gear that was being used to do some geophysical mapping. And we all got a chance to try different things. These are the 4 people who spent the time with me there. And we've got all kinds of stuff on the table. We're well equipped. And taking pictures was a big pastime, I suppose. I guess. I took a few. I took quite a few. We had to do our laundry the old-fashioned way. And this was my home. And this is the inside of my home. Kind of primitive, but you know, it's all you need, really. I don't mind camping. And look at the great outdoors we got to work in. Simply beautiful stuff. I remember one morning I was walking my lines and planting the post and taking a reading, and I walked up on some, well, a partridge came rushing at me, and just as after I got past her, there were the babies, and these little baby partridges, little yellow fluffy things, and we had some interesting weather. We got some, I think, a triple rainbow happening there. And this was our second camp on the bigger lake, second camp for the summer, and this is what my room looked like. It was a little better than the first one. This is the second camp, and we did some target practice. The target practice, I guess, that's the only time I ever shot a gun, really. And this is what our second camp looked like. We had a nice big lake. It was pretty cold to bathe in. And this was my roommate. And here's another look at my camp. I was quite well equipped. That was our shower. I didn't use it much. The water never warmed up. And that was our generator station. And we had the wires going over to the tent. And one time we got smoked in by a forest fire that was happening a few hundred miles away. And that was our second tent. That was my home right there. And we had samples of geochemical, well, yeah, here again is the picture of the being smoked in by the forest fire. Now, later on the same year, I went to a town called Fermont. I got hired to do some work up there by a civil engineering firm, And Fermont is kind of like a big wall that protects the inside from the prevailing winds. So it's kind of V-shaped, and the whole town is a V-shaped wall, and there are some houses on the inside of the V. They were drilling some holes in the rock, and the reason they were drilling these holes, I was supervising them, and I was reporting back to the engineers who designed this thing, and working with the construction crew. And these guys had all kinds of equipment to inject cement into the cracks in the rocks to solidify the rock, to build a dam on top of the rock. And here they're digging out, and then the holes are being drilled. And this red stuff is the tailings. It's a lake of iron ore tailings, and this is the dam that we were building to contain these things so that they wouldn't go into the water, the local waters. So this is all the stuff that was pumped through when they were. There's me with my crew. That's what it looks like early in the morning on the dam at the job site, and this was my piece of rock. And yeah, I had some good memories from that time I was there. I worked something like 16-hour days or 18-hour days even, just getting the work done and doing the reports and reporting back to the engineers. This was the next year, 1990. 1990, I was rehired to work up there and do some work that wasn't quite as demanding, but still I had to keep track of a crew, and the crew was basically building a dike. I don't know where this was, and this is sometime in June. We had a bit of snow. I think it was the 20th of June. See, what was happening is these bulldozers were pushing the tailings up onto a dike, and then they were being compacted by a roller, and the roller compacted it so that it stayed, so that the tailings stayed compacted and kept all the crap from coming through. This is fueling up the equipment, the roller and the bulldozers, and these bulldozers would push the stuff up from the right, and then the roller would just flatten them down. We had a smaller bulldozer for making it flat, and then the roller would come along and compact it. So this is them basically pushing another lift up. And this cement work is on top of the grouting that was done the previous year. And here we've got testing the compaction with a nuclear device. It tests the soil compaction and moisture content using gamma rays. Now here there's going to be an explosion. Watch. There's the explosion, and I took a series of photographs, one after another, to sort of make a moving picture of the event. I hope I got them in the right order. I know I scanned the negatives in the order they were shot, I believe, and I think that hasn't changed in the order in which they are showing up here. They were blasting there to get some more ore out and then put it through the refining process, and then pump more red water through those pipes back to the dike where I was working. That was my truck for the summer. These are the pipes through which the slurry was being pumped, and here's me testing the compaction of the tailings with the nuclear device that sends gamma rays into the dirt. And here is a truck, and there's carrying stuff away, and there's the foreman for the guys that I'm observing. And that was me at work. That's what I looked like at work that summer. And here is what I looked like after I came home from that summer. I guess it was sometime in September.
Fetwick. 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 Fetwick.